Because all you want is that euphoria. All you want is that fix. Before you know it, you're just a serious junkie.
Yeah.
What everybody else was focusing on was the physiological aspect of my healing. So I did not realize that my mind was in need of a particular attention, which was so different from what my body, the rest of my body was getting. And I remember 7 years after the accident, I had a breakdown. I had severe depression, severe depression. And I, in that moment, I was also struggling with substance abuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
And, well, now I get to talk about it, but back then it's something that I would not say.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Here We Talk. We are here with a new episode, and today we have such a very important issue that we're going to talk about. You know, we are always here to inspire you with so much good stories that promotes health, that promotes hope, and that also inspires you to be better within our lives. So today I have with me Sr Maja. Sr Maja has gone through an accident, a road accident, which led her to have 10 surgeries. And the recovery journey has transformed her life and the outlook of life on its own. So we're going to talk about her experience on trauma. We're going to talk about how she is now living with that experience that she had, even if it's a long time ago. But some of these things, we carry them with our lives in our day-to-day basis. So I want you to all welcome Sr Maja. Welcome to Here We Talk, Sr Maja.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here. You know, our conversation did not start with you. It started with someone who referred me to you.
Yes.
And I found your story so amazing because, you know, we get to face those things. Some people don't even get to, you know, experience that. But we take it for granted that someone was in an accident, they are walking with, you know, everything else is okay. Of course, I can see some scars, but you're able-bodied, and we take for granted that experience. And we also just say, Sr Maja is walking, she's smiling, she's talking, she's okay. But we really do not know what it is that is going on with you. So we just want to unpack that with you today. And I'm grateful that you're here with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So maybe just an icebreaker. Do you have an affirmation that you go by?
Do I have one? I think I do.
Okay.
Or I think I do.
It's still okay.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Wow.
One day at a time. Yes.
I think that's something also that we should learn as well, because we try to do so many things in a day. We want to do the things in the 5 years today and everything else. So yeah, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Okay. Well, what's one thing that you like about yourself?
I survived. I survived. I love that about myself. And I'm happy that I survived. I'm grateful. I'm humbled that I survived.
Wow. And you know, it's so not common that we hear that someone will take it upon themselves to be a survivor, because we don't want to be that strong person, but you are taking it all out and it makes you happy, and even the smile on your face when you say I'm a survivor, it shows a lot. All right, so maybe let's start from the beginning, from the day that the accident happened and what you still remember. How did it happen?
I remember this day like it was yesterday.
Okay.
Only difference now is I don't remember it with all the negative emotions. Yeah, I think I've made peace with what happened that day. Anyway, a friend of mine lost her husband, and the funeral was in Chegotra.
Okay.
So I didn't really feel like going. That's the truth. But then again, a part of me said, how will I be able to face her and say, when I could have just gone and supported her during that moment. So, against all the intuition that I had, I went. I remember I left home around 9:30. Burial was supposed to be at 12. So I said, I gotta check what it's like an hour. I'll get there in time. And I got a private vehicle, on a Bloy Road, along Bloy Road, just after the Kwazana roundabout. In the vehicle, there was a gentleman who was driving. There was a small boy who was seated in the passenger seat. Then there were two ladies, a lady and a young girl in the middle section. You know my Ipsam.
Okay.
It is Then Kumashure, there was another gentleman who was seated there. So I came in, I sat just by the left side window. Then I remember we picked up a gentleman at Kwazana 7 bus stop.
Okay.
And when this gentleman came, he said, remember there, move and I said, no, I don't want to sit there. He said, no, you have to go and sit there. And I said, no, I don't want to go and sit there. So we had a disagreement, a couple of things for a minute or two. Then eventually he said, let me go and sit. So I got out, created space for him so that he got to the back. Then we passed through Snack Park service station. We got fuel. Then we were on our way. We passed Norton. It was a beautiful Sunday morning. The sky was blue. Nothing was out of the ordinary on that day. And I remember I received a book as a birthday present. So I was actually reading a book. And just a few Ks before the Norton toll gate, I heard a sound. In that moment, I just lifted my head and I tried to listen. Everybody in the vehicle was quiet. Then the came again. And I realized that it was a rim which was in direct contact with the tower. Before I could even figure out what was happening, the vehicle is veering off the road. He tried to bring it back. It veered off a second time. He tried to bring it back. It veered off a third time. Then just after that, we were in the air. And we rolled about 7 times. But as I was in the air, I said, what? Is this an accident? I was not sure how I was supposed to feel in that moment. But I remember that I did pray. I said, Lord, I didn't think, I wasn't planning on dying today. I don't want to die today. But if you are going to allow me to die today, please forgive me of all my sins. And write my name in the book of life. I want to go to heaven. And the moment I said amen, I found myself on the ground. And just a few moments later, I heard a crash. So I was thrown out of a moving vehicle. And it continued rolling with everybody else and crashed. But when I fell facing the direction where we'd come from. So the vehicle was like behind me. And in that moment, I got up, I sat, and then the nursing intuition in me, I said, let me go and check if everyone is all right, but then I can walk. So I just sat there. And then there were some people who were in a field or something, but there was some gentleman who said, there's been an accident. They went straight to the car to help the guys that were in the car, and I just sat there. I was able to sit. I was not in pain whatsoever. I don't know, but I was just there in that moment. Then the gentleman came by. He was wearing the ZNA uniform, the army uniform. Quite a grown-up guy. And he had my handbag, and he took my ID, and he said, is your name Memory Maja? And I said, yes. And then he said, okay. He took money out of my wallet, put it in his pocket, took my phone, took out my SIM card, broke it, threw it away, took the phone, put it in his pocket, then left my handbag right next to me. And he said, I'm going to get help. And I just said, okay. So my mind didn't even realize that Jeff is actually stealing from me. But then again, then he went away and I remained there. I guess everybody was just focused on the people that were in the car to try and get everybody out. Then there was a lady who was traveling to Norton Hospital. Her son had been admitted after a road traffic accident. So she stopped by and she said, my son was involved in an accident as well because there's no ambulance yet. Excuse me. I can ferry the gentleman that I had that little disagreement with, that's the one I came out with from the accident. Unfortunately for him, he had cuts and bruises and broken bones. He was bleeding profusely from everywhere. I, on the other hand, I felt a trickle of blood on my cheek.
Okay.
And I just thought, oh well, I think something happened to my face. I didn't realize that this chunk had just peeled off. So this lady picked us up, God bless her. Then she dropped us off at Nottingham Hospital. When I went to Nottingham Hospital, the reception was horrible. This I don't want to lie about. It's something that we need to do with our public health systems. And the guy was bleeding, and the nurses, they were just not interested. It feels sad to say this as a nurse myself, but they were just there. And the guy was breathing in pain. He kept crying, but I, on the other hand, I think my body was just in shock. I wasn't in any pain whatsoever. I just lay there. And eventually the ambulance came. We were ferried to Paris. When we got to Paris, unfortunately the gentleman passed away. He was right next to me. And when I then turned my head, he was lying right next to me. I realized this guy's not moving. And I realized he had passed. And in that moment, my shock wore off. Oh my God. That was so, the pain that I felt was so excruciating. I can't describe it in detail now. All I know 13 years later is it was horrible. I felt like I'd been hit by a train. I cried literally. And the support at Paris was amazing. It was so amazing. They took very good care of me. That's when I realized that I had broken my femur, the long bone from my right leg. I'd broken my pelvis as well. I'd broken my back. I had a head injury. My skull was broken, and something was happening with my lungs. And towards the end of the day, I just fell into a coma, and that was the beginning of another journey.
I'm having goosebumps listening to your story. First of all, I just want to extend my sympathy on what the experience you've had, because it's also a horrific one.
It was.
Even I myself, I was actually imagining, being in the air and saying your last prayer, maybe, and, seeing life flashes in front of you. You see that in the movies. But when someone really tells you that it happened to them, you tend to really be grateful for the experience that you already have.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I can see the survivor that you said you are. And how do you also feel now? It's been 13 years, you say, but I also know that there's a lot of work.
Is it 13?
You said 13?
It's 11.
11 years.
Yes,
Okay.
11.
Okay. Yeah. I know there's a lot of work when you get to trauma. And now I triggered you at some point, like going back in those moments, and you are calm. How have you dealt with that trauma of having that physical pain and that emotional pain? And right now, like you said, you actually remember it like it's yesterday.
Well, I did not know, really, even with my nursing background. I was not cognizant of mental health in its rawest sense. So what everybody else was focusing on was the physiological aspect of my healing. So I just kind of went with the flow. But I did not realize that my mind was in need of a particular attention, which was so different from what the rest of my body was getting. And I remember 7 years after the accident, I had a breakdown. I had severe depression, severe depression. And in that moment, I was also struggling with substance abuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
And, now I get to talk about it. But back then, it's something that I would not say. Just saying to people, I am abusing substance. They'll be like, Okay. So I struggled with that until one day because I didn't feel like I could get help anywhere. I wasn't sure where to go. Nobody had come forth to say, you need this kind of help. I requested for a psychological evaluation when I was admitted in hospital. And two brilliant young girls came in and they rushed through the process. They just rushed through it. And after about 25 or so minutes, they concluded that I had bipolar. I said, bipolar? Oh. Okay. Bipolar? No, I don't have bipolar. That created negativity in me with and I just decided that I'm going to keep myself to myself. But when I then went home, I sat on my bed one day and I said, Lord, I'm struggling. I'm really sick. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm really, really sick. And in that moment, God actually healed me from that trauma in His own way. I can't explain how He did it, but He did. And He then took me on a journey of learning about trauma. And I started realizing what had happened in the past. I could now put the pieces to say, okay, this was a mental breakdown. This was my body crying out for help. This was. I could now piece the pieces together. And I guess in that moment, that's when there's birthing purpose in me. And I realized that so many people struggle with this. They don't talk about it, probably because they don't know how to talk about it. Even if there is someone to talk about, sometimes the person doesn't understand. So there are a lot of misconceptions in between. Eventually, people just keep to themselves, and the mental health problems actually sometimes get to a point of suicide. So it's been God for me. It's been God for me.
You know, listening to all that you're saying, you know, I think I appreciate you for saying all of that, honestly, because the purpose also of this podcast is here we talk, trying to promote this so that people know that it is normal that sometimes when you hit a brick wall, you fall down, and you don't just get up. You do get it in stages, and we struggle. And now here you are, a success story. But there was stages that we went through, and we should talk about those things so that you don't have to take those 7 years that you went through. All of those, just the physical body being taken care of. And September is a suicide prevention month, and I appreciate you also putting that highlight to say something that we take for granted that, he or she was in a car accident, so they're okay. But then someone is really struggling and contemplating suicide, like, I can't take this, whatever it is that is in me, I don't know what it is, but I'm not happy, but I'm not safe, but I'm not myself, I lost something.
The challenge with society is, even with the medical system, they will look at you and say, you have a broken bone. Let's deal with the broken bone. We fix it, we put nails or screws or whatever, plates, and in a month, you're up and about. You are about to walk. You are able to walk. So when people see you walk, to them, you're a success story. They move to the next one. But what I have learned in this is that the mind is the powerhouse of the body.
True.
Your mind will demand to understand in its own way. And that's not a process that you rush. You don't dictate to it. It goes through this process on its own. It needs to understand why this happened, how it happened. Is there something that we could have done to prevent this? And who was at fault? Were we at fault? Was the next person at fault? The mind wants to, it's like an ecosystem. It's like a flow of currents, like the Zesa. from the main switch, you have different components that goes to the fridge, to the TV, to the stove, you name it. If someone just comes and they cut one of the wires, the whole system is affected. Not necessarily because someone went and switched off the TV, but because someone interrupted the flow of power. It's the same thing with the mind. I always say to people, trauma is an event on its own. And we need to give it the respect that it deserves in its own way. And just say, okay, this happened. Let my mind deal with this. Of course, you need structure. You need intentionality. You need someone who's going to know how to guide you through the process. But it's critical that we move beyond just say, I was in an accident, now I'm able to walk. Let's get into the nitty-gritties of the accident so that we can actually heal.
You know, what you've said also is something that we even are advocating, even as a therapist that I am in the medical field, to just talk about this, that the body can heal physically. And when someone is healed physically, we can't just conclude that their mind is healed, because like you say, the mind has its own way of dealing. If a bone is broken and then it goes back to be perfect, the mind still wants to know what had happened. The bone broke, and it will take so many years until you come back to deal with that thing, which is why in trauma, you do not rush that whole thing, like you said. And we really need to put that into context. All right. You mentioned something about you struggling with substance abuse. Again, what probably was inside of you that drove you to do that? Was it in comfort? Was it to numb the pain? What was going on through your mind that time?
So my issues started when I got admitted. I was on pethidine. Pethidine is a narcotic. It's a very potent analgesia. It just numbs the pain. What I didn't realize at that point was that pethidine does not work where the pain is. It works in your mind. It will tell your mind that we are not in pain, and you will not be in pain. Challenge with pethidine is, even with its potency and the power to just numb pain, it's very addictive. So my initial admission in hospital, I was in hospital for 59 days. And of the 59 days, I was on pethidine for around 55. That was like pethidine every day. That was a lot. I didn't realize it then. And when I went home, my body just said, we are still in pain. And, well, I was still in pain because I'd had my first surgery. My pelvis was not yet fixed. My eye was not yet fixed. My back was not yet fixed. But the way I was in pain was not the normal kind of pain. And I remember that I looked for a dinner. And I bought it off the streets just to keep myself with a supply. 2014 went by, 2015 went by. 2016, when I had my back fixed, Dr. Madishinsa did the surgery, the spine specialist. And after the surgery, I remember I was screaming of pain. And the nurses called him and said, your patient is screaming of pain. And he said, no, she's not in pain. And I said, how can you not say I'm not in pain? I am in pain. I say what pain is. And he said, no, sister, you're not in pain. He is the person who then sat me down and said, oh my God, sister, you're now addicted to pethidine. And just hearing someone say it, that I was addicted to pethidine. So that was a lot of work for me. It was a lot to take in. But even with that new realization, that new revelation, I still struggled. My body wanted it. I wanted it. So I still continued with my habits. Once in a while, I would access it, I'd get it, I'd do things. But 2019 is the year that God also dealt with that in me. And also another thing, I just didn't have any way to inject myself.
Okay.
My body was just sore. Now I don't do injections anymore because of that.
Okay.
So just that struggle with substance abuse and being a nurse myself, working in a hospital and having to go through that, that was one of the hardest things that I had to go through because of this accident. But I also learned that a lot of people are struggling with substance abuse.
Yeah.
It might not be bronchia or cocaine, but a lot of people are abusing something.
True.
And that thing keeps them going. But when you look at them, they look like they are functional. Their husbands, their wives, their doctors, the lawyers, the accountants. They look, even the children, their teachers, their psychologists.
Yes.
You look at them, they look okay to you. But substance is the one thing that keeps them going. So the other side effect of trauma management, especially in Zimbabwe, is a lot of people are now abusing substance. Sometimes because you can't access pethidine, you end up trying out other things because all you want is that euphoria. All you want is that fix. Before you know it, you're just a serious junkie.
Yeah.
So that was my story in that area.
Wow. Sr Maja, I think you're beyond a survivor. I think you are beyond a survivor. And even listening to you being a woman who was also in the medical field, who was a nurse, who was dealing with those things from patients. And now this is you, like you said, it was so hard to take it in that I am addicted to pethidine. Yes. And yet you were also maybe one person who talked about the pethidine's effects to patients as well. And it really shows how you, the survivor and the strong person you are. And now I want us to talk about now the outlook of life. What has that done for you? Now you've got the intervention of God. You are healed. You now know that the trauma you've got needs this attention. You need to work things out. How do you now see life?
Life is a gift. And I came across death closer. So for me, just being here now is something that I truly treasure. And I'm not sure how long I have to live beyond this point, but I would love to make it count. I have learned that I could have died. The gentleman that I came out with died right next to me. But God allowed me to live so that I could share my story, hopefully bring a change, prevent some of the complications that come as a result of trauma, allow other people to feel heard, to know that what I'm going through is normal. It's normal to feel this way. It's normal to be going through this, but I can actually come out of it. So I live purposefully now. It's not just about me. It's not just about me. It's a new lease of life. I know for a fact this one is not mine. So let me serve God in this context. I came up with my own theme of a trauma-informed nation.
Okay.
Let's talk about trauma in a way that we've never talked about it. Let's talk about trauma in the church. Let's talk about trauma in schools. Let's talk about trauma in hospitals. Because I was in a hospital, nobody told me about trauma. Everybody was worried about my bones coming together. Nobody told me that. You are struggling. There's a problem here that we need to deal with. So I have taken it upon myself to rally with other survivors and help those who are where we were at some point. Just create awareness, create consciousness, and actually help other people to heal. We need holistic healing. Let's not just focus on the physiological side. Let it be holistic so that when we come out of it, we are better than how we were when we came in.
And it's so funny that in life sometimes the purpose that we have comes in a very strange place and painful things sometimes.
Oh yes.
And I have a friend of mine who says that turn your pain into purpose.
Oh yes.
And
that's so true.
You have done that so well, and I think it's a very great job that you're doing.
Thank you.
Trauma is something that is not given enough time in our homes, in our communities, in our workplaces. And we take it for granted that, they're walking about and not knowing that they actually have put their other things aside and use the substance you're talking about. All right, now, Sister Maja, the time that we had was quite short, but in closing, I want you maybe to just give words of advice to people that are going through the same process that you went. Just give them some words of encouragement or of enlightenment or the awareness of what it is to be traumatized.
First of all, I would like to say congratulations on surviving.
That's beautiful.
It's not by chance that your life was spared. Mm-hmm. However, what you're going through is very normal. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know that support is there. Mm-hmm. People understand. Mm-hmm. Some people understand. Mm-hmm. Some people care. Mm-hmm. And find a community. Mm-hmm. Find someone where you can get people who can relate with what you're going through, who can help you through the process. So that when you come out, I always say the only way out is through. Mm. So go through the process. Mm. Trust your process. Mm. Go through it. When you then come out, believe you me, you'll come out a much better person than you were when you came in. I started an online support group for survivors. If anyone is interested, you can join that group.
Please give us the details.
+263 773 052 992.
Okay, we'll put that on the screen.
Thank you so much. Join a community of survivors. Let's rally behind each other. Besides, we are in the same WhatsApp group. We understand. Let's talk about the things that the ordinary person would not talk about, and just enjoy our life in this space. Yes.
Well, I want to congratulate you for surviving.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It can only be God. Yes. Now, one last question. There has been changes on your physical body. Mm-hmm. How have you dealt with that?
Oh, that was terrible. That was terrible. I'm still, not that I'm still struggling with that, but I hid myself from the public for the longest time because my left eye looks so different, especially when I move my eyes. And oftentimes people say, what's wrong with your eye? So because of that, I ended up shying away from people. But it's been a journey of accepting myself, of looking at myself in the mirror and saying, oh my God, this girl is so beautiful. With the puffy shoulders, with the gait. I limp when I walk. But I've learned to love myself. I've learned to love this person. And I always say, I wear my scars with pride because I survived the war. So when you look at me, each scar you see on my body has a beautiful story to tell. Ask me and I'll tell you all about it.
Well, I will not add anything on that because I think you've put it so beautifully.
Thank you.
And you're beautiful. You've got a beautiful smile and the dimples. You are so beautiful, Sister Maja.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for coming here and share us this story. And I hope that you get more people who are going to come in on your platform. And we have heard it here we talk community that we need to make as much noise as we can about trauma. We need to talk about the things that we feel inside that no one really talks about. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to be on the other side because there's always help. Sister Maja is here to be help. She is now in her purpose of trying to make you be on the light because of the experience you've went through. So let me know what you think and what you also want to talk about when it comes to trauma, and reach out to also Sr Maja. And we hope that we continue to have these talks in our homes and wherever you are. So from me, Shannon, your host, and my guest, Sr Maja, I want to thank you for today and enjoy the rest of your week.